This week on The Real Housewives of Orange County.
Getting your wee then because she's friends with her. She's probably going to that wedding.
Jesus Christ. Can someone not give her gummies anymore? She won't shut the f*** up. I can't say
you
anything.
stop talking?
Whatever. No, you don't stop talking.
I'll stop.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be recapping the new episode of The Real Housewives of Orange County, Season 19, Episode 16. Let's get right into this. All right, you guys, this season has felt like an eternity. It truly has. Like, what? But hey, we're one episode away from the finale and then the reunion eventually, which at this point we just want to watch. So we begin this episode. The girls are in Amsterdam. They're on their cast trip. It's day 2. So we see all the ladies wake up and start to get ready for their day. So the first thing that they're going to do today is they're going to be going to a tulip field. It was Heather's idea, so they're going to be going there. Heather also decided to wake up and hand everybody drugs. She gave them like those edible things, that something about mushrooms and things like that. Way too early for all of that, but some of them took it. But she thinks that maybe seeing the field of tulips in another state of mind will be a different experience. So they get going. They divide into 2 vehicles, one of them being Tamra, Emily, and Gina. And we're talking about last night, and they're talking down on Gretchen. They say that she's weird, that, you know, she brings the mood down, and that they expect her to just be different. Tamra then says, well, she's worried that something is going to be coming her way. And as soon as she said that, I was like, oh, this one's got something up her sleeve. I already know it. Tamara does say that at least Jen was being fun last night. So then Gina says, well, Tamara, the problem with Jen is she is whoever everybody else wants her to be. Like, she's different depending on, you know, who she's with. For example, Shannon was recently under the impression that Jen wasn't going to be going to Alexis's wedding because she didn't want to. But what Jen is now going around saying is that she isn't going to go because Shannon doesn't want her to go. So it's kind of like that's been lost in translation a little bit. So that's something that Gina's bringing up. So they arrived to the field. It was very pretty, and it was definitely giving like the Wizard of Oz, Wicked, very all that universe, kind of like very colorful, very vibrant. So they're wandering around the field. Shannon, Jen, and Gretchen, they had their own little group. They were kind of hanging out on their own. They even got on top of this big fake horse. Meanwhile, the other ladies are together, and Gina is really making an issue out of this Jen thing. So Gina is mad that Jen is not being honest as to why she's not going to Alexis's wedding. And on top of that, she says that she was so supportive of Shannon last year. She says that she's been going through so much, so why would Shannon throw Jen a bridal shower? I mean, I guess I get her point. I guess what she's trying to say is that she's been a better friend to Shannon than Jen. So, you know, why doesn't she get a party? But it's like, you're not getting married, Gina. You know, like, I don't know. Let me know what y'all think. Do y'all see her point? Because like I said, I can kind of see it. But at the same time, it's kind of like a, I don't know. Maybe if you were getting married too, she would have thrown you a bridal shower as well. So I don't know. So then after that, they go to have lunch. They're eating, talking about the flowers that they just saw and what they're doing this summer. But then Gina says to Jen, hey, Jen, somebody brought up Alexis's wedding. When we were with Tamra, you said that you weren't going, but now somebody said that Shannon asked you not to go. Like, what is going on? So Jen's like, well, yeah, I'm not going to the wedding for her, for Shannon. And Shannon's like, well, let's be clear. I didn't tell her not to go, or I didn't tell her what to do. Emily says to Shannon, well, are you okay with her being friends with Alexis? Listen, Gina and Emily, they love to get in between everybody, acting like some damn referees. It's getting very annoying. I'm tired of them doing all this every time. But anyway, Shannon says to Jen, well, they're saying you're good friends with Alexis. Like, is that true? And Jen says, yeah, I am. I like her. listen, your issue is your issue with Alexis. She's never really done anything to me, Shannon. Shannon says, I get it, but if you see the things that she did to me, I mean, it was pretty freaking disgusting. It's not easy for me to be friends with someone who is close with somebody who's not very kind to me. Jen says, so let me ask you this. If I tell you that I don't have issues with Alexis, does that mean you're going to question our friendship? And Shannon says, yeah. Jen says, well, that's effed up. Which Tamara agrees as well, that it's effed up. She thinks that Shannon likes to control people's friendships. And then Gina, here she goes butting in again. And she says to Jen, I think that you tiptoe around what you really feel. Like, you couldn't even be up front and tell Shannon that you thought that the bridal shower was ridiculous and that you didn't want it. Shannon says, wait, you didn't want the shower? And Gina says, no, she didn't. She thought it was ridiculous. So then Jen says to Gina, what are you doing right now? Now, the reason Gina is saying this is because she had met up with Jen a little while ago. They had gone shopping to a little store. And Jen did say to Gina, quote, I love Shannon, but why is she throwing this shower? So Jen didn't call it ridiculous, but she definitely did try and insinuate that, like, she didn't necessarily want it. Which I think when somebody is doing something nice for you and you maybe didn't want it or didn't ask for it, or maybe you think it might even be a little bit weird. I think that those are things you should maybe think but keep to yourself and not say it, because I just think it could really hurt someone else's feelings if they hear that. So I think Jen kind of messed up by even saying anything at all, but Gina was definitely blowing it out of proportion as well. So Gina says to Jen, you didn't want this shower and you wanted us to take time out of our days to foster your fake friendship with Shannon. Jen says, I didn't have an issue with it. Would I have asked anyone to plan it? No, but that doesn't mean I didn't like it. Gina then says to Shannon, I had your back last year. I went through such a hard time with Travis and our kids, and now I'm back with my family. Maybe that's something that should be celebrated instead. And I loved how Heather said, Gina just wants a party. And Gina says, no, I want things to be celebrated that are genuine. Shannon says, but I was being genuine. Like, I was actually happy for Jen getting married. That's why I decided to throw this shower. Emily says, well, I think Jen and Shannon's friendship just doesn't seem authentic. And then Gina wouldn't stop interrupting Emily. So Emily says to her, can I finish? Can somebody make her shut the F up? Listen, Gina was feeling the effects of whatever Heather had gave her in the morning. She couldn't control herself. She was being so annoying that Emily had to tell her to stop. Also, some of the ladies were like nitpicking Jen's Instagram because apparently she posts Ryan a bit too much. And they were even clowning Gretchen's Instagram because Gretchen has a lot of like partnerships that she does. But listen, she's getting paid, so like who cares? But Gretchen actually was encouraging Jen to keep building her Instagram and like learn how to profit off of social media. So after this, the ladies go on a jacuzzi boat type of thing. So it's basically a boat, but it's meant to be like a jacuzzi that kind of like floats and you row on it. Also, they change into their bathing suits to get on these little jacuzzi boats. And then Emily had these hats made for each one of them that each had a different phrase. Now, let me say, these hats had some of the most vulgar things on them. Just so gross. It was a bit too much. Like I said last time, it's one thing to be open, funny, and whatever, but it's another when it goes, this is way too vulgar, way too gross. Ugh. But anyway, they get on the little jacuzzi boats. They get in two separate ones. And they also had to navigate them. Now, I don't know who thought it would be a good idea to have Shannon be the one driving one of them. She crashed into a boat, as you could expect. So one of the boats is Shannon, Gina, Heather, and Jen. So they're underwater or whatever. And then Jen does ask Shannon, are we okay? Shannon says, listen, I understand the concept of someone didn't do anything to me, so why would I hate them or whatever, but I'm not saying you should never speak to her again. It's just that certain lines were crossed, and it makes me wonder, like, why do you think she's so great? I get Shannon's point, but I think Shannon, I think being friends with Shannon must be exhausting. You know what was funny though? As they were rowing their little boat, they came across this big boat. And what are the odds that there's going to be a big boat that says Jansen on it? That was funny. So the other little boat is Gretchen, Emily, and Tamra. Emily is trying to make Gretchen and Tamra talk. Gretchen does say to Tamra that she regrets what she said in LA. She's talking about the whole singer who, like, that Tamra allegedly slept with. So she does acknowledge that she was wrong. She truly does regret it. Tamra says, well, what about you and Slade coming after me at Emily's party? And Gretchen says, well, I had just heard that you were speaking to Katie about Slade and just wanted to ask you. Emily says, well, the issue is that, you think you have the right to go after her because you think she did something that was low. So then you want to go low too. So it's kind of like a cycle, which is true. But Emily definitely puts most of the blame on Gretchen. She tries to kind of downplay what Tamara has said, which is very fake of Emily because in one moment she'll be speaking against Tamara. Like even on this trip, they showed a little clip of her talking about Tamara on the van. But now she's like, Team Tamra, she's just such a flip-flopper. Emily says to Gretchen, well, I will say this. The past 3 years, Tamra hasn't talked about you. And Gretchen's like, well, maybe because she hasn't talked to you. But that doesn't mean that she hasn't talked about me to anybody else. And then Tamra's like, I don't talk about you. You're not relevant. And then Emily kept sort of like reprimanding Gretchen. But Gretchen does say, you know what, maybe I think that I need to look at it differently. She says that maybe she has said things and put things out there unwillingly without thinking of how bad they are. Tamara says, well, that's the best thing I've heard. Can we just agree to stop? And Gretchen says, okay. So when they got off the little boats, Tamara got a notification that Jen was ordered to pay a 6-figure judgment after failing to pay rent. She did bring it up to Jen, and Jen says that it's part of the same issue that she had since last year. Some of the ladies discuss how they think Jen needs to get it together and fix her life so that she doesn't have these issues with money in the future as she does right now. So I did think this part was interesting. So again, when they are heading back to the hotel, they get into their separate vans again. In one of them, it was Gretchen, Heather, Gina, and Jen. And Gretchen was feeling really bad, and she tells them that she feels bad, and she actually broke down and started crying. And she says that she's thinking about what she said in the past, and she genuinely never has tried to intentionally hurt anyone. So she's kind of reevaluating how maybe some of the things that she has said or done maybe have hurt people, even if that wasn't her intent. So then they head back to the hotel. Time goes by and they start to get ready for dinner. All the girls then meet downstairs and they're going to head to dinner on one of the little buses or vans, Sprinter vans. But Gretchen wasn't there, and Jen tells them that Gretchen has been feeling very down since they came back and she might not go, so they go ahead and go without her. And then they go to this place. It was like a huge food court type of place, lots of different food options, and then they buy their food and go up to a room where they can go up and eat. So then Tamara tells them that she feels some type of way about Gretchen not being there, like she's annoyed by it. Gina then says, listen, Tamara, I feel like we have tried very hard to get Gretchen to see and understand what she has done that's not okay. And I feel like earlier today when we were in the van, she got it, like she understood. And Tamara is like, well, was it performative? And then Gina says, no, like it was genuine. And then Tamara says, well, let's not pretend like she's a good person. Then Gretchen actually arrives. She makes it on time. The other girls had finished eating, but she did make it. And they ask her if she's okay. She doesn't really want to talk about it. So then Emily says, Gretchers, do you want to talk about today? And Gretchen's like, no, not really. Jen says, well, what are you feeling right now, though? Like, what is it? Gretchen says, just a lot of pain. I hate this back and forth. Tamara says, yeah, but we stopped it and you started it again. So you can't say that you hate it when you engaged in it. Heather says, but she did apologize. And Tamara says, today? And then Shannon says, no, she also apologized at the self-defense class. Tamara's like, well, she still did it. Emily asks, like, what is the bottom line when it comes to Gretchen? Like, what does she want? And long story short, Gretchen really just wants an apology from Tamra. She says that even though it's been so many years, it still hurts her. She says to Tamra, like, if you feel like I've been coming after you for 12 years, I'm sorry. And Heather's trying to, like, sort of help them, but Tamra just says stop, and, like, she's not interested. She's like, she wants to keep apologizing, but she keeps going back. So the group was definitely trying to fix things, and it just didn't seem to work. But I do think that Gretchen came in to this dinner with with her guard down, and I do think she was, like Gina said, for the first time, really willing to acknowledge everything that she did, but you could clearly tell Tamara wasn't interested at all. Okay, so then all of a sudden, they instantly show us the very next morning. So we see Emily and Gina talking, and they're talking about the infamous Instagram post that went viral a few months ago. That Gretchen, she didn't make the post, it's not like she posted them, but it did show that she liked them. So on Instagram, it'll show you, like when you look at a post, if you are following a certain person that liked it, it'll say liked by, and then it'll show their username. Apparently, Gretchen liked one of these posts. Now, this is what's interesting. The conversation surrounding these posts has actually been happening the past few days. Little by little, Tamara has been going around showing some of the women one by one these posts to try and turn them against Gretchen. Now, the post happened to be against LGBTQ. So Gina is here in the scene talking to Emily, asking if they should bring it up to Heather, who cares very much about this issue. So they feel like she needs to explain herself, they need to show it, and then that's the end of the episode. So the next week, that's when we're going to get this explosive finale that they've been teasing us about for, like, since the beginning of the season. So now we know it's probably about this, or not probably, it is about this, and we'll see what happens. So I'll save my thoughts about that because I really want to see how it unfolds. But now it makes sense why Tamara was throwing these little subliminals at the beginning of the episode, talking about she knows something's coming or she's not a good person, because she had this up her sleeve, as I said. She was waiting for the moment to have this big finale moment to truly turn against Gretchen. And that's why she wasn't willing to work anything out when Gretchen was being sincere and when Gretchen was being genuine when they were on those little boats and even when they were at this last dinner. So, it is what it is. But you guys, let me know what your thoughts were. Like I said, I'm so glad next week is the finale, finally. But you guys, like I said, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. And I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.